Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm Patrick Kraus, COO of Jet Midwest. I'm here with Michaela Preusser. Mikayla, you're a brand designer, and I think this is a bit new for the podcast listener, so I hope that they can follow the logic here, because I think you're doing some work in the aviation industry and really would like to get an understanding maybe of how you first got exposed to the aviation marketplace.
Well, I did plan to end up in aviation, but my husband works for a major airline MRO for over 30 years. So I've been around aviation for a long time. He always told me that the MRO industry needs serious help when it comes to branding. But I really didn't fully step in until I met Carol from TCS. And that project honestly really opened my eyes about the potential which is laying in this industry. And before that, I was a brand strategist, a brand designer, and head of marketing in different kind of industries, like for over 30 years now. In MRO aviation, like the people and the pride and the work is unmatched. There's so much heart and drive here. And yet the power of good branding is often overseen, and I wanted to fill that gaps. Now, I got to help companies in this space articulate who they really are and show up with the clarity and confidence they deserve.
That's fantastic. So as our podcast listeners might recall, Carol was actually one of our guests on the show, and she and her husband were opening a new MRO. And it's great to hear that you have 30 years of exposure to the madness of the aviation industry. Probably have a lot of stories that have been told in the background. We won't maybe necessarily repeat all of those, but probably some great stories that came from that. Now, in our show notes prep, we had some conversations back and forth digitally here, and something stuck out to me and so well crafted. And I think it'd be good for people to understand. So I'm going to read this to get it right. From under the radar to unforgettable, how aviation MROs of all shapes and sizes are showing up differently. Tell me how you came up with that articulation. What's the most important thing for people to take away from that very poignant sentence?
I would say branding isn't about the company's size. It's more about ambition. So it's about clarity, confidence, and showing up how you really mean it. And honestly, in MRO, I am on a mission to change the sea of blue and grays. What I see in aviation branding today. So this industry is so full of energy and passion. So why should they all look the same? Speaking of, for example, for Carol, when she came to me, she immediately understood that branding isn't just a nice to have, it's a business asset. And for her startup, TCS, she saw how a confident brand could elevate her recognition in the industry and help attract the right business partners. So working with her was an eye-opener for me on how much potential there is in this industry. And I think her new website will be launching soon.
That's great. Their growth, they've been paying a lot of attention to what they're doing. So it's been exciting. I know we've got some material over to their shop already, but you talked about sort of the common threads that you see from a branding perspective when you spend any time around the industry. And a lot of the entrepreneurs from the MRO world that we've had on the podcast have very common themes in their lives. Most of them have great technical expertise. They are wonderful entrepreneurs who see a way to do something better, faster, more efficiently, more cost effectively. So you have a lot of that technical entrepreneur who is also the doer. They're in the trenches every day. And so they probably don't know much more than the company that trained them on how to turn that wrench or how to manage the whatever they've gone into from an industry standpoint. They're sort of just repeating those things. So it makes sense to me that there's a lot of commonality in the approach. How do you, as a brand manager, helping these folks understand that, what is maybe the methodology that you're taking that young entrepreneur through in order for them to realize both the value of branding as well as how to execute that? It's not just the understanding of value, but then you got to build an execution plan with some folks that kind of been doing it the same way their whole lives.
First of all, I want to say for me, it's always an honor to work with people that they let me take such deep insight of their businesses. Because when we talk, it's not just about a talk how they want to look. It's a very deep dive into strategy and into history, where they're coming from, and what reasons they had to build this company in the first place. So it's a very, very personal thing to do the branding, and I'm very honored and I'm very thankful that these people are so open and honest about these things and go with me on this journey together. It's not like that I come to them and say, well, you need this, this, and this. It's more like a journey we do together. It's like a partnership. And I listen to all the things they tell me about the business. And even if they think they have nothing to do with branding at all, I need that to really come up with a strategy, which I then transform into visuals that will create an everlasting and sustainable brand system for them. And this is more of the magic behind branding in general. It's not about a logo, or also not about a website, even if people always come to me in the first place, say, oh my God, I think I need a new website. But what they really need is someone who can guide them through the process, from ask the right questions, who you really are, where you're coming from, and how can I really stand out in the crowd of all the MRO aviation brands, and then build something they feel comfortable, because it's coming out of them. And I'm just more or less a translator, from all the great things they already build, and just make it visible for their audiences and understand quicker what great value they bring to the people.
Yeah, we went through a branding exercise a handful of years ago, and it was initiated around our 25th anniversary. And one of the things that I really felt they did a nice job of, sounds like similarly to yourself, is they really jumped in, spoke to the employees, and got a great sense of our culture. And which sometimes as an owner, I could tell you it's hard to get a sense of where you're at. You're hopeful that your culture that has developed is the one that you want. And a lot of times I think it was, but it was a great reinforcement to, yes, that culture is what came here. And then they turned that into the branding message, both internally and externally for the organization. And it's been a springboard that we haven't stopped jumping off of since then. It's been great for us to, and then continue to carry with that. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that type of journey, and maybe your thoughts on that value of both internal and external marketing. How does a sales team embrace the messaging that your brand or that discovery? So maybe talk us through that process a little bit.
It's very interesting that you mentioned the culture, because I think a culture of a company is key of if a rebrand or a brand is going to be successful at the end or not. Because at the end, it's the people who have to bring the message out into the world. And if they're not full in to the concept, it's like very hard to get out in the world. And you have visuals, you have your messages, your claims, but if the team is not behind it, it's nearly impossible to really get the audience feel the connection. So that's why it's so crucial to start with a strategy first. And that's why, especially for bigger companies, I propose that before they do a brand reveal to the audience, they do kind of a brand reveal inside the company first, and also let all the people know why they did it in the first place. They did it for the people in the company, so that they feel honored, all the work that they put into everything, that they feel honored and seen and valued, and explain where they're coming from and what is going to happen in the future. So, and that they are the reason why the branding it looks like it looks today or in the future. And after that, so if the team is online and the sales team have all the messages and are aware how to use the branding in all of the touch points, and it's not just on the fair, it's also how you speak, what words you use, how you show up, maybe what you wear. It's like branding is not how you've been seen, it's what your audience feel and think about you whenever they get in touch with you. And this always happens in the subconscious. And this is the magical power of branding. So if the team is on board with the new branding, because they also are part of creating it, and that is a very important thing, then they are fully in line, and then the brand cannot be other than successful.
So when you're going through that process with a new team, what's maybe one of the most common challenges or misunderstandings that team has to kind of bridge, or that they have to get over in order to really be successful to take that brand to the marketplace, to the industry?
Yeah. I think one of the challenges is it's not only about the team, it's also about the owners or in general companies when they work with a brand strategist and designer. Sometimes they have the expectation there's someone coming and just do something and present 3 different things, and then they have to decide what's good for me and what not. And I do a totally different approach because we work so deeply into the strategy. The design falls in place like totally natural. So what I do differently is that I do not present 3 different designs and then make them to choose, because this is not their job. This is my job, actually. I have to choose which design fits best to my client. That's why they pay me for, And sometimes they feel challenged to have kind of opinions about things like, I have no idea how an engine of an aviation works, and I cannot tell them how to do their work. And they pay me to give them advice and to guide them, but also to reconsider where they're coming from. And sometimes they felt pressured to give their ideas because they think they have to. But I think I have a good process or good framework to make everything go fluid. Everybody felt heard, and everything they want to be considered, I consider. But at the end, I make a decision as a designer, and I present one design concept. It's a full concept, and I work on that for weeks. And I present like 30 pages of brand design presentation where I guide them through my vision, how I would propose their brand into all touch points they can ever imagine, and I can imagine what they even haven't think about. And so it's very rare that I get any kind of a forth and back. Usually I hit the first time with my design. And this is the good thing if you do all the work before. At the end, you save time and money, and you're 100% aligned with your client. And out of that, all of the time, we end up with a deep connected partnership. And this is the best thing to guide them and to be part of their company journey. This is why I do it. This is why I love the job so much.
Your passion mirrors that of many of the podcast hosts that we've had who the aviation industry itself is a very passionate industry. And sure, it's great to hear you have similar passions for what you're doing there as a brand designer. Now, maybe you can talk to us about, or maybe give us an example, if possible, of a core objective going into a brand design, and then what are the measurable outcomes on the other side? How am I, as a business owner, going to measure the success of Mikayla's brand design for my company?
Yeah, this is a often discussed topic because branding, I would call the branding as the foundation, And then the marketing is how you present yourself in the audience. But this is the foundation of the house. So if this foundation is built properly, you have the security that you have. I always ended my branding process with an extended guideline where I put everything my client has to know about the brand, like the colors, how to use the logos, what to say, even all the claims, everything is also over 30 pages long. And I also give them workshops how to do that and use that. And there's so less second guessing. For example, okay, I want to go now, present myself on LinkedIn. Oh my God, what am I going to say? How will I show up? I don't have to come up with ideas from zero because we've gone all through this in the branding process. Now you know, as a company, always who I am, what value can I bring to my client, and what exactly is my client expecting. And if you have this in mind and really work with this framework, it's so much easier, even if I talk to a client, or also if I wanted to create a brochure, a new website, you have so much more clarity about really the words you say and how you present, that the client in the first I say 10 seconds understand what your values are. And I think this is one of the major takeaways my clients always have. And also what I get a lot of feedback is that they are now stepping front or into the market with so much more confidence. Because before, many of my clients say, well, yeah, I have a website, but don't look at it. We need to make it better. And now they can really, they give their business card, they're proud, and the people say, oh my God, that's so cool. That's so different what I've seen before. For example, one of my actual clients is Akia, and they are now in the market for 9 years, and they felt ready to present themselves like with a new rebrand. And I was so happy that Frank and Felipe from Akia were so open to my new design approach. I use disruptive design. Disruptive design is when you take design processes and ideas from totally different industries and make them work in your own industry. And this is nearly the only process you can use to create something really unique. And I used for Akia's new branding the ideas what 5-star hotels use for show up in the world. And we use this, and you can be very excited about. I think Akia will show up in the MRO in Orlando first time, and this is going to be so different. And when I had the presentation first time, I haven't heard back from them a week, because I always send a video presentation. They can sit with it, think about it, and then come back to me. And I haven't heard from them in a week. And I think, oh my God, they're so shocked and they don't like it. And then after a week, Frank called me and said, Mikayla, can we talk? And I was like, oh my God. I said, yes, of course we can talk. And he said, Mikayla, as longer as I sit with it, I'm so in love with it. And I love how different it is. And we're full in, we have no change it, and we're super excited about it. And now I'm working on the website, and he just wrote me an email that he said he's so excited. It's like buying a new yacht and not can drive it. And and it's so much fun working on it. And I think, it's the excitement, and it's really understand for the client what make them different in the market, and give them the allowance and the braveness to really be what they are and not what they think they see in the business, what everybody does. No, really speak the words you want to speak, and stay close to who you really are, because this is the secret for a success, always. This is my opinion.
Well, very nice. And, it'll be exciting. I'll be at MRO, so I'll have to check out their brand exercise
Yeah.
they've gone through, and that'll be fun to do. Really, technology that we're hearing about and talking about today really is a lot around artificial intelligence. And I'd be
Mm-hmm.
curious from your perspective, as we talk about brand and marketing, how is the branding and marketing industry, how are they embracing, or maybe how are they utilizing AI to enhance brands and enhance marketing programs?
I am an early adopter of AI. I think it's a nature of my business. I was also one of the first web designers in Germany. I was so new that people say, "What do you want to do web design? Like internet's going away in 3 years." And I think it's the same idea people sometimes have about AI. They're maybe a bit afraid of it, but I adopted it like 3 years ago when it was really fresh. Well, software in brand design always worked with AI, morely in the background, but now it's accessible for everyone. So, what the best thing about it, in my opinion, is that I'm able now to create mockups for my clients, which look so real that they can really imagine how their brand would look like in the real world. And before that, that was so much harder for me as a designer. And also, it helps me to provide a bigger range of services. For example, sometimes especially for smaller companies, they don't want to go all in doing booking a photographer for imagery. And good imagery is crucial for design always. It always was and always will be. And there I can help them out with AI images before they even ask a photographer to show up to come up with ideation or like images they really can show how the images should look at the end, or even create images they can use for the website. And also it helps me to help them write their copy for the website. Before, the years before, I always have to hire, or they have to hire a copywriter, or they have to hire a photographer. And now I can do all these tasks by myself and deliver a full project. So I can work so much more holistically with AI. But what I figured out in this 3 years working deeply in AI, and I tried so many things like creating logos, working on strategy, and it shows it can assist, but it cannot really replace you for someone who having 3 decades of experience. Because as I said before, it's a very personal work together and very emotional too. And I have to curate and guide it, and cannot just write a prompt and say, "This is a MRO aviation, and they're from there, and now give me a logo." This is not working. You know, this is like, you will not get out something very unique because it's just generating something very like generic and nothing really special. So the hard design work has to come out of my brain, out of my idea, how I can bring all the informations together. And then I help AI come up with mock-ups and with images that they make my clients understand how the brand would look like on the booth, how would it look like on the brochure, and even things like merch and whatever they can imagine. And this is like what I really appreciate about AI.
Very nice. I've got a son that's in high school, a daughter who's just started college, and both of them have to manage their way around which technologies are the right ones to use and not use. And they've been able to create some things I've seen that they've done. I'm like, well, that's actually pretty good. That's pretty well written. So it's good that we're going to have a generation coming up who will be able to utilize those tools pretty effectively. And it sounds like you've been able to capture that as an early adopter.
Yeah, and I think the new generation will show up in the MRO industry as well. And I feel it right now, the new generation is there and AI is there. It's not going to go anywhere. Also, like all the digital approaches. And I see it as a huge opportunity, but also you have to be careful when working, very careful with this new technology.
So if there's the do's of AI, what are the don'ts of AI? What do we not really want to rely on that for?
Yeah. At the moment, you have to be careful about using it for texting. If you do not really know how to use it, and by the way, I can also teach my clients after the process. For example, they can fill in the strategy paper and the presentation into the AI, and then the AI come back with so much better response. I would say it's a mistake to just not really learn how to prompt and then come up with something generic, which sounds like the competitor just next door. And this will happen. For example, they predict in just a couple of years, all the social media content, like 90% will be AI generated. You must imagine 90% of the social content will be generated by AI. And I ask myself, who wants to listen to that? And, how can I avoid that everything looks the same? Everything sounds the same. And even now, you can easily recognize when texts are written by ChatGPT if you're not a super pro or if you're not super careful. Also, be careful using AI imagery because it's like I don't know how to say it in English. In Germany, we say it's a gray field like silver lining. I don't know if you would want to phrase it that way. What you can use or not to use, it's about copywriting,
Sure.
and using people faces and change it and stuff like this. And you have to be very careful. Also put information into AI, maybe business confidential information. You have to get yourself really informed how to use AI properly and safe, and to generate outcomes that are really unique at the end and not sound like everybody else.
Yeah, the words you used earlier, from under the radar to unforgettable, I guess maybe a differentiator for AI in the future is going to be those people who really can make something that's unforgettable that's not really generated through the AI, right? We're going to be
Yes.
competing against a lot of AI volume, and
Mhm.
something that really is unforgettable will really stick out, and that is the brand and the
Mhm.
marketing plan that you maybe can be putting forward. That's amazing.
100%. And that's why I think the MRO is the perfect industry for that because they still have this originality. They are real people, they are not fake. If you go to other industry, let's talk fashion, interior, this is like so full of like perfectly generated images and whatever. And I totally agree with you that there is going to be a trend to being not perfect, not generic. And I think the Emerald people will live that to the fullest. And this is why I love this industry so much. And I think there are so many good ways to use AI for help to just reach maybe your goals faster without losing your authenticity in this process.
Well, certainly you've described in a very kind way the personalities that are floating around the aviation industry are amazing people and all varieties of amazing.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of that really is because they're homegrown. They kind of don't care. They've learned to control their own destiny by creating their own companies and having this great product that they provide. And by doing that manually their entire lives, they know what they can do, and they're confident in that. And again, those personalities, we could spout names. In fact, a lot of our podcasts that you listen to will be talking about mentors and people that help them. They're all big personalities, and it's great to have that, and people who have the confidence in who they are to not have to bend to a world where you have to, I don't want to say pretend, but never been in the fashion world, but I would guess that a lot of people have to pretend and change themselves to fit the conversations with the folks around them.
Yeah.
And in the aviation industry, we don't really bend that way. So
No.
you get a lot of good characters out of it. I ask all my podcast listeners what their favorite aircraft is and why.
Mhm. Also, my favorite aircraft, I would say it's a 787. I like huge airplanes, and I think it's a beautiful one, and I like traveling with it.
In terms of the aircraft, the 787 is amazing. I have had the chance to fly on one, and the flight was just awesome. And I love watching them from the ground as they take off and the wings flex. So if you're ever maybe at the Sky Club in LA or somewhere where it overlooks the runway and you can see the aircraft taking off, it's a pretty cool sight to see a 787 as its wings just kind of bend. And it looks like a bird floating in the sky. It's pretty amazing. So Mikayla, let's talk a little bit about maybe a case study, and we've talked previously about the idea of what kind of results. It's very difficult. You even said you don't really measure the brand, you really measure the marketing. So help us understand how we as business owners are going to really see results when we use a program like yours to rebrand or to just expand our current brand.
So I would explain it like there are two stages on how you can or will experience or measure the success of your rebrand. This is first on the baseline, like on the branding layer, which is not measurable in numbers, but you will also recognize the alignment of the team, the confidence you step into the market, and how easy processes will flow after a successful rebrand without going forth and back of ideation and think, what am I going to do on the fair? How I'm going to look? And that will save you so much time. And this would be measurable, but it's not really in numbers. Where really the numbers are come in place is when you execute the branding into the marketing. Speaking of social media, there you can measure the success. Like if you can really, after rebrand, the messaging really hit your audience, they will engage more. You can see you have more clicks. If you look at your website, like Google Analytics, you can see how the people engage. Do they really look at your website properly and then get in contact with you because the website leads you, like it has a good storytelling at the end of the scroll. They have to contact you because they just think they want to work with you. These are things you can measure if a rebrand is successful, and how you attract people on a booth on a fair, and how you can get deeply connected with them. And these are all the touch points where you have direct contact with your clients. You will definitely recognize that properly done rebrand will pay off. And at the end, you will save money and time when you do it the right way, instead of just putting a new logo on your website and not the real answers are cleared up before. So I get this feedback from my clients all of the time, that they have not to answer so many questions from their clients, because everything on the website is already answered before they call them. Everything is crystal clear, and I think clarity and confidence is the biggest takeaway and time and money saver what can branding and after that a good marketing can deliver for a company in aviation or all other industries.
In the discussion we had earlier about the branding exercise we went through that really started at our 25th anniversary, one of the things I could certainly say was the positive impact it had on our business development or sales team that went into the field. We got much more aligned with the messaging we were taking to the market as a part of that brand plan. We were able to take those things consistently to the marketplace, and we got a more consistent message. Jet Midwest does an awful lot of things. We started as just a parts company, which we now have grown from being a small parts company to a major parts company with millions upon millions of pieces. But we've also expanded into the component maintenance and some engine maintenance and some heavy maintenance on aircraft, and so we're doing a lot of different things, and the ability to make sure everybody has the same messaging that they're bringing forward has given a lot of confidence to our team. I think that's one of the things I'm hearing from you. As well, maybe we talk about this briefly, but, you know, if someone's wondering or if someone's a startup or they're concerned about, hey, maybe I should do something with my brand. I don't know that I'm ready to take a journey with someone of your caliber. You know, you mentioned LinkedIn and some other things. What would be a step they could take maybe with LinkedIn to sort of test themselves to see if there's something out there they can do to help bolster their current image, and maybe eventually that turns them into a branding project in the future, but maybe they're not quite ready for that.
First of all, I would say a good idea is always, as a company owner, to jump into the perspective of your client. So instead of speaking about what you are doing, what you can do good or well for your clients, better speak what problem can you solve for your client. First, figure out what problem do they really have in the first place. And sometimes this has nothing to do with your product or service at all. And this is a very interesting psychological thing about the branding is sometimes you solve a totally different problem than you think you're doing over 30 years. It's not maybe about fixing actuators or whatever. It's like delivering like calmness, peace of mind, and safe. MRO is an industry where it's a lot of pressure, and also a lot of other companies who does exactly the same thing. And so there's a lot of competition. So you have to think what people I'm going to deal and step into their shoes, and how can I really help them instead of just talking about yourself, what you're going to do, what you're good at. Instead of give them the feeling, I know where you're coming from, I know your problem, I understand you, and I deliver the solution. And I think this is the most essential mind shift you can have as a company to really reach your client's attention. And then don't try to be something you're not. And don't be shy to show up as the company you really are. Think about where you're coming from. Why did I found this company in the first place? What am I passionate about it? And go all in with it. And then you can try in LinkedIn. This is a good place, and test how successful the interaction with your clients are if you just speak right out of your heart. And don't be shy to have an opinion as well. Don't speak like any other mouth. Just say what you think, because people want to work with people and not with brands, and they want to have people have an opinion. And if you just say what everybody say, you just get lost. You cannot drop a message. So be who you are, say what you think, and then just be very interested in what your client's real problem is and how you can solve it, and let them know.
That is amazing. Such a crystal clear image. And I love the message of being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You got to where you are today because of who you are. You don't need to bend that because you're trying to win some business, you're trying to convince something of somebody. Be who you are, and hopefully make a message for them that's unforgettable. Well, Mikayla, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for enlightening us. Is there anything that maybe you want to talk about as we kind of wrap up here, or some other thoughts you want to give us?
Yes, I would love to invite all the listeners. I'm going to be in the MRO in Orlando, but also in Europe, in Amsterdam. And I would love if some of your podcast listeners would contact me. I'm always open for a real talk conversation about their brand, and learn more about what they would expect from a brand designer and strategist, and how I could help them to elevate and to stand out in this industry. So if they would love to contact me, I'm open for meet them at one of the MROs, either in Orlando or in Amsterdam, and I give them half an hour of their brand review.
That would be awesome. Taking everybody from under the radar to unforgettable.
Yes,
Amazing.
exactly.
Thank you, Mikayla. I appreciate you being on. You're my first brand designer, and I'm very much looking forward to meeting you at the MRO in person. And for all of you out there, go on LinkedIn and jump on Mikayla's page and be sure and connect with her, get any of your branding questions or marketing questions answered. Thank you to all my listeners. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.